We all love a mystery, and we have told many mysteries. But sometimes on the channel we have a mysterious item. And very recently, when I was unboxing one of my Viking and Anglo-Saxon chests and going through what was in it, I showed you this item. And it's a fascinating and intriguing item, and quite a few people had guesses what it was. Some people thought it was to put your little pins in for sewing. Some people thought it was to keep your tinder. And nobody guessed correctly. So what is this item, first of all? So you can see in my hands, it is a little bit of antler, probably about 5 centimetres long, 1.5 inches. And inside of it, it has been bored out, and there is the remains of an old cork from a wine bottle. And this had a very specific purpose. And you know, many people tried to guess and nobody got it right. So in today's video, I am going to let you know what this mystery item is. And I love a mystery. And to a certain degree, it may be a little bit of a modern re-enactorism, but it was designed and made for health and safety. And I'll show you why in a minute. And then later on in the video, I will demonstrate it by wearing the said item on an item. So there you are. You're back in the day, you know, 800 AD, and it's winter and it's cold. So what do? You get a cloak and you wear a cloak. And if you're lucky, if you're wealthy, you'll probably have a nice and decent cloak pin of some sort. And this is the clue to this item. So in my hand, I have one of my largest cloak pins made from silver. And this is a copy of one from the Silverdale Hoard. And I'm sure you agree, that is a mighty, mighty big cloak pin. But the problem was, it is very pointy, and the last thing we wanted was to hurt somebody or even hurt ourselves. And of course, this should sit here on your shoulder, and if you've got a massive pin sticking out and it's very sharp, you're going to point it into people and it's going to hurt. And trust me, I got hurt by this once when it poked into my skin and went in about 1 centimetre, and it did hurt. So the original owner of this lovely silver cloak pin, and I don't know who made it, I'd love to find out, decided that he needed to make something which he could put on the end and tie off, so that the end was never revealing and never there to point into somebody. And trust me, it's a very, very dangerous and sharp point. And this was created to eliminate hurting somebody, and it's been well used. So what would happen? It was placed on the end, and this is why we have the bit here all curly, because it's been tied around here, around the actual brooch. And I'm trying to talk and work this at the same time. It's not easy. So you would basically tie a knot, and then we'll probably go around a couple of times to make sure it's nice and secure. And I can definitely tell that this bit of thonging, this leather thonging, is very dry and won't last forever and probably needs replacing. And then basically it is fastened off so that when you wear it, it's not going to poke into somebody, because trust me, it is very, very sharp. So that is the purpose of the mystery item. Now, would this have been practiced back in the day? Well, I think to a certain degree, if you've got a very large brooch like this is classed as a penannular brooch because it's got a gap here, and if that sticks out, you're going to want to have something over the end. So perhaps it may have been used on brooches with large pins, and maybe this is slightly enlarged than the actual find, but it is a very large pin. Because back in the day, in the 80s and 90s in reenacting, everybody was trying to get something a little bit better than everybody else. You know, if it wasn't having the, you know, the most expensive pattern rolled sword, or having your pommels and your crossguards gold plated, there used to be competitions to see how many people could have a necklace with as many beads you can get on as possible, which is what you see in some of the videos where Eggle has a necklace with lots of beads, and I emulated that, and I also emulated that idea from Turkey. We was having a bit of laugh between ourselves. It was a competition to see who could be the most elaborate warrior with the most beads on the necklace or the biggest brooch. And I'm sure you agree that there is a very substantial brooch. And brooches are tricky, and especially when they're weighty, because unless you've got your cloak fastened with a bow, it's got a habit of wanting to come down south and end up on your chest, whereas it should be on your right clavicle, around here on your shoulder is the right position. But unless you've actually worn a cloak, they do like to travel down south because of the weight of the material, and that there is a lot of material. It's probably 10 ounces at least of silver, if not probably more. And these days you'll be looking to pay £500 to £1,000 easily for something like this. These are cast, and they're cast hollow, and then the silver soldered together, and the tube is also hollow, and this section is hollow as well. So they're not solid silver in the sense of this being solid and this being solid, because all of these would be tubes, and they're not solid bars, which is also quite a fascinating fact. But I guess that's the way in the modern world to reduce the weight, and to a certain degree that may have been practiced back in the day. I certainly think back in the day these would have been hollow and not cast solid, and they would have been soldered together, so that's quite authentic. But let's talk about wearing it. I don't often wear this brooch because of the fact it's so ginormous and big, and it just gets in the way. It's a lovely piece to show people and to demonstrate the wealth of the Vikings and what they could achieve, but it is slightly impractical to wear because it sticks out so far. So this is why back in the 90s, probably, when Turkey brought this, he made, or this came with it perhaps when it was sold, a way to stop yourself from, you know, pointing somebody's eye out, because trust me, you know, you only got to have Olaf next to you and you move around and that's sticking in his face, and that's not a nice thing to happen. So it's a practical reason why it's there, and it's there for really the safety of the user and the safety of the people around you, because, you know, we do gang up, we do form shield walls, and I wouldn't want to take this into battle. But next we will go to the part of the video where I will wear it and demonstrate it for you. So we're now outside. I've got a nice cloak, the first cloak I ever had, and the very large brooch. So the first thing we need to do is pull out the cloak, and I must say this is my favourite cloak I ever owned, because I just love the material, because I think it's so fabulous. So the second thing we need to do is to untie this now. So we're going to untie it, and we're going to take it off. We don't need it on for the moment, but let's just hang it over there for a second. We're now going to get the cloak pin, and we're going to shove the cloak over our back. We'll try that again. There we go. So I'm going to feed this through. I don't like doing this because it means poking more holes in my lovely material. But for you guys, I'm willing to do it. I'm going to poke it through. We have them, and we're going to grab whatever you want to call it. I call it a doodad. It's a bit of a doodad, but it's got no name. So we're now wearing the cloak pin, and we're going to put that back on, and we're going to tie it off again. And feed it through and tie it round. This is when you could really do with your servant to give you a hand, but I'm not that wealthy enough. Do another knot. So now, when I'm wearing this cloak pin, it's not going to poke into anybody's eyes or my neck, because it could, or my head. So it's secure, and it's secured by the leather thonging. And then if you get a bolt and you put a bolt around your cloak, it should keep your cloak in the right place. If you don't, what tends to happen with the weight, it drags it down until it ends up around your chest. So you're constantly shifting it back up again. And that is what it's for. It is there to protect the people around you, so that they're not going to be poked with the very pointy bit of silver on this bar. I must say, I think that's splendid, and is a really nice look and feel to it. And that's what it's there for. It is there for safety. And yes, it may be a slight modern re-enactorism, but I think if you had a cloak pin like this back in the day with such a large pin, you would definitely want to put something on the end, an antler with a little bit of wood inside, and in this case cork is ideal. And there you go, the mystery object solved.